All right, welcome into another episode of Bankroll Blitz. It's Brad Thomas, joined by Bobby Stanley Jr., Josh Lander, and Matt from Dead Prez Picks. Fellas, thanks for joining. First, I'm going to kick things off and pass it to Bobby. Bobby, any takeaways from week 2? I know the Bucks are undefeated. Your Rams were almost undefeated. It felt like you guys were going to escape with a win there. Tell me what you're feeling, man.
There's no moral victories in football, but watching the Rams go watch the Rams go stride for stride with the Niners made me feel a little bit better. No, what do I think of the NFL? Is Tua legit? Are the Miami Dolphins the best team in the AFC? Is that a thing? Or is the game of the week in week 3, not to look ahead, is it 2 defeated teams? I would say Minnesota Chargers, both teams looking for a win. Could be the best game on Sunday. So still early, not going to make any massive assumptions just yet. But there's some sneaky storylines creeping up, I would say, early on.
Yeah, go ahead, Josh. Tell me what you like.
I mean, what I liked, especially as a Giants fan and a man with a ticket on the Cardinals that have the fewest wins in the NFL this season at plus 250, I sweated every second of that game and enjoyed the second half like a lot. But neither team, I mean, that team's not for real. Arizona's clearly going to keep trying to lose, which is wonderful. And I think, this week, a quick look ahead for them. Joshua Dobbs gets sacked like 19 times maybe, or has like 17 yards passing, I would imagine. So I think I'll talk about that a little bit more later.
Yeah, Matt, what are your takeaways from week 2? Anything you want to talk about?
My biggest takeaway is the NFC South. 3 teams undefeated there. And preseason, I rated that as the worst division in football. So it shows how much I know at the moment. I did power rankings this week. I have 3 of the 4 teams in my top 10. So, it's been kind of wild. Are the Bucks legit? Are the Falcons legit? There's a lot of question marks. Even the Saints, kind of 2 ugly wins. But nonetheless, 3 undefeated teams in the South, which I don't think a lot of people had on their bingo cards entering the year.
Yeah, I'm going to piggyback off that, right? I was looking at a lot of offensive pressure rates. The Bucks being one of those teams who I thought their offensive line was going to be awful. I know they haven't played 2 teams who really pressure the quarterback a ton, but pressure percentages are pretty good. The Falcons, when they needed Desmond Ridder, he balled out. I had him under passing yards. I think I played the alt line at like 200, and I was totally wrong about that. And then even the Saints with a gritty win. NFC South's fun. It's fun to be a Bucks fan when we are undefeated and exceeding expectations. I was in Tampa and I was at the casino, and it was cool, like high-fiving other Bucks fans. A better experience than when we're the worst team in the NFL. Well, let's kick it off with picks. I'm going to go first, and I'm going to play one of my teasers. I took Bills. It teased them down to a 0.5 point, and Raven sees them down to 1. I'll start it off with the Bills. The numbers here for the Commanders, if you want to tease them up, are totally fine, right? Like, we look at the Commanders, defensive line has played really good. They've been good in coverage. Their offensive line has been holding up. Bills, we don't know what we know about Bills, right? Week 1, we have that weird divisional road game, right? Prime time. Josh Allen throws a ton of picks. But for me, it's just a good on good, strength on strength advantage here for the Bills. What I've seen from Eric Bieniemy's offense of the Commanders, I am not on board with what everyone has been saying. There's been a lot of the pundits saying like he's reinventing the wheel, like he has turned this offense into something miraculous. And I'm going to contradict myself a little bit in a play later, but I don't think it's going to be competitive throughout the season. If I were to, put my cards on the table and just pick one side, it's going to be the Bills. Bills are great at covering big spreads. If you wanted to lay the points to the Bills, I understand. I do think the Commanders could sneak a backdoor in here, and I don't want to touch that part, especially with Sam Howell. He's playing good. Brian Robinson looks like the real deal. But the running back who we need to talk about is James Cook. James Cook is running all over the place. He was inches away from making my touchdown parlay, but his red zone utilization is just too low. But I think they're going to kind of change that. It's only so long where he is their star running back. Forget Latavius Murray and how many touchdowns he has. He is their star running back. It's only so long till he doesn't touch the ball and he starts getting upset in the red zone. And then the Ravens versus the Colts. Gardner Minshew show, whatever. I was going to play this whether it was Anthony Richardson or Gardner Minshew. The Ravens look like the real deal. We talk about Todd Monken, and what he means for this offense. He has meant so much. I was kind of worried in week 1, but week 2 looked like it clicked a lot more. That was a big win against a team who everyone thought that the Bengals were going to be this bounce back team. We know Joe Burrow's so hurt, so it discredits it a little bit, but I really did like what I saw from the Ravens there. And then one last thing I want to say about the Ravens is they've been doing a great job of protecting the quarterback. It's really hard to put numbers on a team's offensive line when, the quarterback is mobile. Sometimes pressure rates are a little bit different. Sack rates are different, obviously, but pretty low pressure rate. I was excited about what I've seen in the numbers there. So I went ahead and teased those. That's my first play. I'm actually I'm super confident in these two teams where I don't care if I tease them with every play that I make. If it loses, it loses. But those are two teams that I'm really confident in this week.
I'll just say, because you brought that up, that one of my resolutions for this football season was don't expose yourself to the same team like that. But I still also feel confident about both these teams. I hit a similar teaser as well, so I feel you on it.
I don't know if I can follow that logic, because I'm going to bet Calvin Ridley every single week. I'm not going to wave the white flag until that line hits 72.5. It's 67.5 this week heading into the game. But man, as far as the teaser, what we saw from the Bills, I do think they're one of the better teams in the league. Losing a Division I game, week 1 against the Jets, I don't take too much away from that. I don't really detract them too much. Obviously, they beat a lowly Raiders team, so getting them, I think it was at minus half a point, nearly a pick 'em. I think feels safe. I do think I feel pretty confident on Buffalo early on.
What do you got?
Give us your next pick.
Oh, let me roll into Monday Night Football. And I know starting right off the bat, Monday Night Football, I do want to say, of my 6 picks on Bankroll Blitz, I am 5-1 through 2 weeks, and my Zach Wilson play hit. I don't know if anybody remembers that.
He had 35 rushing yards?
And I think he had most of it at half. It was everything went according to plan. If I could have taken a picture of your grown faces, I'd make a T-shirt out of it. But I digress. Let's go to Monday Night Football and my LA Rams. Yes, I am a Rams fan, but it does not matter for this because their team total is over 20.5 at minus 113. They're the best red zone offense in the NFL. They're facing a Cincinnati Bengals team who may be without Joe Burrow. Has no impact on their team total, but it's questionable going into the game. They're the 23rd ranked red zone defense in the NFL. Rams are averaging 26 points per game through 2 weeks. One of those was against the San Francisco 49ers. The Bengals gave up 24 points to the Browns in the rain. And then we see what the Browns do against Pitt offensively, who is a bit of a better defense. But we could be looking at a bottom 10 defense in the league in the Cincinnati Bengals. This Rams total didn't seem real to me. Maybe this is the week where we start seeing the books know more than us, because early on we've been hammering weak lines. But the Rams total at over 20.5, I like what I see from that offense. They're moving the ball with Puka. Kyron Williams, as of today, he is the unquestioned number 1 back. Cam Akers is now a Minnesota Viking, and they're playing different football than they have in the past. Normally, Sean McVay does a lot of outside run zones, and then running back's going to dig his foot in the ground, get upfield. They're running the ball between the tackles now, and it's working. So there's a lot of different plays that they're working out of this. Tutu Atwell starting a play running feels like a cheat code. He should not be able to just start the play with a head of steam. I love this Rams offense. 20.5 is way too low, especially how well they're performing in the red zone. Give me over 20.5 as a team total.
I want to add to that. Rams picked up their pace of play year over year, too. I know it's only 2 games, but playing quicker, it seems like it's helping. It also helps with young wide receivers or young players in general. Less time to think. You're just playing. You're doing what comes natural to you.
Yeah, I have no problem with it. I mean, personally, for that game, I've been hitting the Rams with or without Joe Burrow, and even with Joe Burrow, like I'm saying, still kind of feel like we know what that offense looks like with a quarterback who, by the way, I think last week his rushing yards prop was still at 9.5, which was a wonderful under. I think he fell forward for a couple yards and that was it. So felt good about that one too. But let me roll into my first pick here and talk about who did I go with first? I don't even have the sheet up. My bad.
It's okay. Pick whoever you
want.
First
guy. Let me talk about Dobbs first. Mr. Joshua Dobbs. and go under 187.5 passing yards for him. I was talking to you guys a minute ago about the Cowboys and then coming into this Cardinals team where it was just like they're just going to keep trying to lose. I imagine their team total is at 15.5. I mean, I would love to take an under like 16.5 or 17.5 is what I'd love to be able to hit with them. But I'm probably not going to get that number. It didn't even open there. So for him at 187.5, I imagine this gets bet down a bit. He's at 180 on the season. He got 228 against that Giants defense. Even into the beginning of the third quarter, still looked all right. And then from there, it was just like 4 punts in a row. And I think we saw what really is the maybe worst offensive line, bottom 5 offensive line in the league. It's why he's not going to have any time to pass against this. Like this Cowboys defense is terrifying. Both the offensive lines for the New York teams are also pretty Swiss cheese. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers isn't playing anymore, and Daniel Jones is going to basically have to be Michael Vick this season if the Giants are going to be anything. But now you're talking about maybe a worse offensive line for Arizona with fewer weapons, and just every single stat that I could throw at you about pressuring the quarterback for the Cowboys, while at the same time only actually blitzing the 13th fewest times in the league as well, because they just get pressure with 4 pretty much every time they're in your backfield. And if Micah Parsons does come, then good luck with that at that point. So I don't see how a world where he gets a 187.5. They could be down by 3 scores in the first quarter and he's throwing 40 times. I still don't think he gets 187.5. Like I don't think he gets 40 throws off basically, right? So that would be why I feel pretty good about this one.
Matt, the Cowboys are the number 1 bet team. Do you think it's an overreaction, or do you think it's justified having them as a 12-point favorite?
With the matchup that they have, I think it's justified. I do think the only thing that scares me is I see it's 88% on Dallas at the moment. Don't know if they'll cover that number, but from a spread standpoint, yeah, it makes sense. I mean, Arizona, that offense is god awful. Although we did see them kind of have their way with the Giants in the first half, but when you really break it down, like you just said, Josh, I don't see how they move the ball against this Dallas defense and that pass rush. So yeah, as long as Dallas is clicking offensively, they should cover the number. But with all these bets on it, we might see a way that Arizona somehow backdoors, or let's see how it goes down.
like the Rams field goal.
Like the Rams, yeah, they're gonna spike and kick a field goal to cover.
All right, go ahead and give us your first pick.
All right, so I'm going to go with Cleveland, -3.5 here, taking on Tennessee. So we just saw the Browns play on Monday Night Football. I actually did have Pittsburgh. That was my big bet in that game. But I thought Cleveland severely outplayed Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh just kind of lucked into a few mistakes. That first play of the game, drop pass, pick 6, late in the game, Deshaun Watson with a fumble. Cleveland severely outgained Pittsburgh in that game. The Cleveland defense was outstanding. They only gave up 9 first downs the entire game. Now, some of that probably has to do with the fact that, Pittsburgh offensively is pretty limited. They might have the worst offensive coordinator, in the NFL in Matt Canada. But nonetheless, they struggled, right, to move the football against them. You can't really blame the defense. Now, I know Nick Chubb's out, for the season, obviously suffered that horrific injury. But Jerome Ford stepped in. I didn't think their offense took a major step back when Chubb went out of the game. Not saying that Ford is anywhere nearly as dominant as Chubb is. But overall, I thought their offense adjusted pretty well. And Tennessee offensively, they don't have a ton of playmakers. They have Derrick Henry, obviously Hopkins in the lineup. But I don't think they're dynamic enough offensively to be able to move the football against Cleveland. So, like I said, last week, Cleveland, 9 first downs allowed. Week 1 against Cincinnati, only 6. So this defense is yet to allow double digits when it comes to, just teams getting first down. So I think they should be 2-0 right now. Deshaun Watson, I don't know if he's going to flip it at any point. I think everyone's kind of just like waiting on him to get back to that old version of Deshaun Watson. I don't know if we're going to see that. I hope we do in week 3. But I think Cleveland here at home, after that kind of performance, I do think they bounce back. I'm not high on this Tennessee team. I think Ryan Tannehill, we're going to see him, getting sacked a lot in this game, forced into some turnover. So this is more of a bet on the Cleveland defense that they come out, they continue to dominate. I do think they're a top 5, top 7 defense in football. And at some point, I do think Deshaun Watson, I don't know when, but, at some point, I think he's going to flip the script and get back to where he was in the past. So I'm going to go Cleveland -3.5, -110 on DraftKings.
I love it.
I actually think
just because I love Cleveland's defense so much. I was, when I started on this game, I was like, I don't know, man, 3.5. Like Tennessee's, decent enough on the road. But as soon as I looked at Cleveland's defense, I was like, no, I want zero part of that, especially with Tennessee's offensive line. Those dudes are going to live in the backfield. You can't run on them either. That's going to be a huge problem. So yeah, I'm with that pick. It's just Deshaun Watson terrifies me. Otherwise, I'd be like, and if Nick Chubb was healthy, I was ready to be like, this is the second, maybe third best team in the AFC. Like they could finish that way, and maybe not without Chubb, but yeah, either way, that defense is so for real.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I actually think this week is the week we finally see some semblance of Deshaun Watson. The way you beat Tennessee is not on the ground; it's through the air. And this secondary is something that can be picked apart. Obviously, you got to hope Amari Cooper's a little bit healthy. Elijah Moore is a guy I'm going to have my eye on his lines. He lined up in the slot 64% of the time week 1. There he had, I want to say, it was 6 targets, 3 receptions. I look at what Keenan Allen did against this Titans team last week, and he went off. This is a possibility, I think, for obviously Cleveland to get a win, Deshaun Watson to get some semblance of himself under his belt. But Elijah Moore is a guy I'm really going to be monitoring his lines going into this game.
Yeah, I was going to add, you took the words out of my mouth. I think this is a chance for Deshaun Watson to kind of, I don't want to say bounce back, but kind of grow into form in terms of passing yards. I know Keenan Allen skews that numbers, but the completion percentage, the number 1 target, was just way too high. And then yards is way too high for me not to think that. I'm going to go into my next pick. I have a prop. I turned into Brad Holiday for this one. Nico Collins over 53.5 receiving yards. I will be transparent that I played this number way lower on Prize Picks, like 43.5. I couldn't believe that it opened there on Prize Picks. I gave it on Twitter too, so anybody follows me at Mr. Brad Thomas, it's there. But I was going to play this around 55. Nico Collins, 10 targets week 1, 11 targets week 2. He is the guy for the Texans there. I think this is going to be one of those situations where we just continuously get heavy doses of Nico Collins. CJ Stroud proved last week that he can be the man. And what I mean by that is Dameon Pierce is not running effectively. If I recall, it's somewhere like 2.4 yards per carry or something gross like that. And it's not necessarily the offensive line not getting that much push. It's not a great offensive line. But when you have a bad offensive line or not great offensive line and a running back who is just not doing anything, you're going to get down. And I think they're going to get down to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jaguars an 8-point favorite. So game script they could have a negative game script. I think they're going to have a negative game script all season. We will not be seeing these numbers open at 43.5 and last through 53 for long on this guy. It's just when you're averaging, 10 yards per target at 10 targets per game, you're going to get the yards that you need.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I actually hit on him last week, Brad. I had Nico's over too, and it was almost there at halftime. And I think it's kind of a similar spot. The good thing with Houston, you just kind of hit on it with the negative game script. I think they're going to be in a lot of negative game scripts this year. Anytime his number is kind of in that range, and really, who else does Houston have? He's clearly the number 1 guy there. So yeah, I like that play. Yeah.
And I think we have to give a little bit of love to CJ Stroud for a minute. He's got the 5th most passing. I mean, negative game script's going to be there for him all season. So maybe he was a solid fantasy pick for y'all if anybody has him out there.
He was I got him at 9-1 for offensive rookie of the year. I put it in before the season started. I don't think he's going to win many games, and it's probably going to be a Bijan Robinson or something. But at 9-1, I always want to roll the dice on a quarterback. I guess I'll be the third amigo on Nico Collins for last week. His line was 45.5. He blew it out of the water. This is a guy, 25% target share in week 1, 13.2 yards per reception for his career. You're looking at 4 or 5 receptions to hit this mark in a game that they're going to be playing from behind. So these lines are getting sharper, but it's still manageable. It's still beatable at 53.5 with a guy seeing 25% of the targets on someone drop back 40 times a game. So I like it, man.
All right, roll us into your pick.
I'm on the Jags. Minus the 8.5. I do think this is a blowout. I do think this is I'm a staple in the AFC game for this Jacksonville Jaguars team. They beat the Colts by 10. They go toe-to-toe with the Chiefs. The Chiefs with Kelsey back. The Chiefs with Chris Jones back. That game was close in the 4th quarter. Texans struggled mightily against the Colts. Feels like should have been a double-digit spread. I'm actually shocked this isn't 9.5, almost 10.5. But no one's sold on the Jags as a top team yet. They are third in the NFL in defensive success rate. Their defense has made leaps and bounds over last year. Texans lost to the Ravens by 16 and then lost 11 to the Colts. So I love this at the 8.5. I think this is the week where we start hearing about this Jags team as, okay, it's Miami. Okay, it's Kansas City. I think that third team may be the Jacksonville Jaguars, and it comes with a double-digit win against the Texans.
Yeah, man. You talked about their defensive success rate. This is the 8th rate defensive DVOA team. Last year, they sat around that 23 mark all season. More impressively, what I think is going to really piss Dameon Pierce off, 5th in defensive DVOA against the rush. It's going to be one of those games where you're going to need a big, big effort from that defense to even kind of keep them close.
Yeah. I mean, a couple props on this game. We haven't really talked about them. I didn't put them in, but I was just looking before the pod started. 251.5 on Trevor Lawrence over under. Again, 67.5 on Calvin Ridley. I might as well just put his jersey back here. But this is a team that I'm really excited for. So minus 8.5 against the Texans.
I didn't look at it, but ETN might be a play there as well if he is going to get the load, just because that
he's minus. I think it's the first time this year he's minus 110 on a touchdown. So books are catching up. We know it takes a couple of weeks, but they're getting there.
Yep.
Josh, what you got for us, man?
Yeah. All right, I'm going back to talking about that Browns game because I wish I could have just I should have given this one first. Now that I think about it, if we had done this correctly, we would have gone me talking trash on Tannehill and then Matt talking about the Browns losing in general, right? But I'm going Tannehill under 212.5. I would just bring this number up real quick. He averages 211 passing yards on the road as a Tennessee Titan. So he's much better at home than he is on the road over the course of the 30-something games he's played with Tennessee. He's averaging a bunch more yards, 15 more yards, more interceptions on the road, and fewer touchdowns. So he already is just and he's coming up against this team where this Cleveland unit is just nasty, man. We were just talking about it, and I do think that, you mentioned it, Perez, that you think they'll end in a top 5, top 7 defense. Right now, to me, they might be the second most impressive defense after what we saw Dallas do to the Jets, and after we keep seeing San Francisco, who did let a pretty good offense apparently in the Rams, get 23 points on them. But I think that the Cleveland defense needs to be talked about similarly. They stopped both of these, the run and the pass equally. They given up the second most yards, and I would argue if the Cowboys didn't have the opportunity to play against Zach Wilson and that Daniel Jones putrid offense for that game as well, that they would have fewer yards than the Cowboys at this point. So they do it, like I said, both types of schemes in terms of blitzes, and then also just dropping back some zone blitzes. As bad as Matt Canada is as an offensive coordinator, is as good of a defensive coordinator as Jim Schwartz is, and that's sort of where I'm going to end that diatribe.
Yeah, I like that. Every time I watch Red Zone, I feel like I see Ryan Tannehill sacked 8 times.
Yeah,
12 yards too.
Yeah, it's just every other time I look up, he's just getting smoked. So yeah, I think he'll be under duress in that game. So let's hope we both cash that in.
I'm just glad someone's bringing unders to the table. I can't be the only one here. Me and Brad pumping overs, but no.
Wait, no. You want to know what under I really want to take? I'm probably going to pull the trigger. Mac Hollins under 17.5 longest reception. The number's obviously inflated to 17.5 because he had a 40-yard catch last week. So of course that number is going to. But Desmond Ritter's not just chucking the ball deep all game. I think he has 8 out of 3.8 or something, maybe 4.8 with the inflated one throw.
As someone with a ticket on them to win the division at 4-1, can we throw the ball to Kyle Pitts and not Mac Hollins? What is happening, dude?
Josh, I was gonna bring this up. Reviewing the lines, I may be the guy who bets Kyle Pitts on an alt line. His 50 plus is plus 260, and I look back to last year. It was, donut week 1, donut week 2. Week 3, he finally went off. Maybe Arthur Smith figured it out. So, and that was against Seattle on the road. But I may be the guy who bets Kyle Pitts in an alt line. And I'm either a jerk off or a genius, so we'll find out.
You're one of the two.
All right,
Matt,
guys.
what do you got
I'll go with my second pick. Yeah, I'm going to go with New England here, -3. So if you look at them, they're taking on the Jets here on the road. New England, obviously, 0-2. Now, there's a lot of trends to back up teams that do start 0-2 against the spread in week 3. But Bill Belichick has owned the Jets in his time, and especially as of late. The last time that the Jets beat the Patriots was all the way back in 2015. So 15 games in a row, Belichick has taken down the Jets. 14 of those 15, they've covered. The one that they didn't, they pushed. So they've been pretty good here against they haven't covered the spread of the game. They've covered this number here at -3. So my thoughts with this game are pretty simple. I just don't think this Jets offense can move the ball with Zach Wilson. Like, I don't think it's overly complicated here. New England could easily be 2-0 right now if you've watched both of their games. I'm an Eagles fan. I thought they played much better than Philadelphia did in week 1. It felt like they had that game even at the end. And unfortunately, they just couldn't pull the game off for their sake. And then in week 2, that kind of crazy play at the end, if they said that lineman was pushed across for the first down, who knows? They score a touchdown, they go for 2. But listen, they held Miami to 24 points. And I know 24 points isn't amazing, but that's probably the best offense in football right now in the Dolphins. So if they could hold down that Miami offense, I think that they might be able to, limit Zach Wilson and company here to 10, 14 points. I think Mac Jones has played pretty well through his first 2 weeks, 547 yards, 4 touchdowns. He does have the couple picks. The one pick last week was pretty bad there in the red zone. But nonetheless, I've actually been pretty impressed with this Patriots team for being 0-2. I think they've played pretty well to be 0-2. They could, like I said, easily be 2-0 here. And the fact that we see them here as a road favorite, I think this line kind of indicates that they will get it done. So, yeah, I think the Patriots bounce back, and I just don't think the Jets will have the offensive firepower in this game.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see a hobbled Garrett Wilson taking on Christian Gonzalez, who has looked the part of a potential defensive rookie of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would just say too, I was going to just say, like, you could just end it with Bill Belichick versus Zach Wilson. Like you said, let's not overcomplicate this. That's pretty much it right there.
Yep. Yeah.
He's 0-4 in his career, and he has never covered this spread against the Patriots in his career.
I love it. Yep. Keep giving me the good trends. Yeah.
It's on me now. I'm taking another prop. Number's a little higher than I wanted, but I panicked and bet it. I wanted 45.5. I took Terry McLaurin over 49.5. When we talk about this team, I kind of want to see how they evolve. I said that Eric Bieniemy's offense is not like what the media is making it out to be, but from what they were going with last year to what they have now, it is night and day different. For me to be comfortable in betting on Terry McLaurin, I wanted to make sure he was getting a fair target share and a fair snap share. Week 1, 89% snap count, 74 in week 2. Led the team in targets in week 2 there. I think Terry McLaurin is just a breakout waiting to happen. And the Bills, game script obviously affects this, and then Garrett Wilson somehow making miraculous catches. But the Bills can be had through the air. We've seen that so far this year. So if we get a negative game script where the Commanders are going to have to keep coming back, I like Terry to go over this.
They're say what you want. They're pushing the ball downfield. 30-yard completion last week for McLaurin. 36-yard reception for Gibson. 35 for John Bates. They're trying to do what they can to make this offense look nothing like a Washington Commanders offense.
Exactly.
Credit. In a game where they're gonna have to air it out. They got nothing to lose against Buffalo. So no, I like it, man. 49.5 seems low for a guy. I think his career average is like 14.2, 14.3 yards per reception. You're looking at 4 or 5 catches.
Yeah, and I think it's a big game this week, just like to see how they stack up against a legit team. Like Washington being 2-0, it's fun, but like I couldn't put them in my top 10 this week with like the power rankings. It's hard leaving an undefeated team out, but like they beat Denver. Like who have they really beat yet? So I'm just curious to see how they stack up because I have been pretty impressed with Sam Howell. I think he's looked good, and kind of like you said, their offense actually is fun, which we haven't seen in Washington in some time. So yeah, I'm excited to see this game, but that line does certainly seem low, especially in the negative kind of game script.
Yeah.
I'm going to stick with my sides. And when I saw this line, I didn't understand it. I got the Pittsburgh Steelers getting 2.5 against the Las Vegas Raiders. Yes, the offense looked bad against, keep in mind, San Francisco and the Cleveland Browns. We talked about the Browns. Number 1 in defensive success rate. This Browns defense, I think, is top 5, and we obviously know what we're talking about with San Francisco. Las Vegas gets smoked by Buffalo and squeaks out a win against Denver. I don't think Denver's a good team. I don't think Russell Wilson's going to finish the season as the starting quarterback for the Denver Broncos. I don't think very, very highly of the Raiders. And I look at the Steelers team. They finally got a win. They're starting their road trip. They don't come back home, I think, to sometime in October. Give me the 2.5 in the Steelers. Something clicked last week. I like that they got Jaylen Warren involved in the passing game. I think this is a game that Najee Harris finally looks like a starting running back. I'm not projecting anything over 60 or 70 yards, but he will be an adequate contributor. We can finally see some Pat Freiermuth, some George Pickens. This is a team that you start getting yourself together against, this Las Vegas Raiders. I'll take the 2.5, and I'm probably sprinkling a little bit on the money line. I like this Steelers team to be competitive with 2 damn hard games right out of the gate against Cleveland and San Fran.
No objections for me. Couldn't figure out an angle I liked on that one. I want to see if Devonta Adams can have a good game. I don't rate the Steelers secondary all that high. I know Joey Porter Jr. had that game-winning stop, but looked a little handsy to me. I just didn't have a look. But, I mean, getting points for a team that's going to have a better defense for sure seems something that's kind of fun.
Mm-hmm. And this is the time in the season. We saw 2 weeks. You're not going to base your whole season off 2 weeks, but you have a pretty good feel. Which teams are going to be bottom 10? Which teams are going to be middle of the pack? Which teams will be top 10? If I look at a team in middle of the pack like the Steelers, I think can be more than competitive on the defensive side of the football and adequate offensively. I really don't think highly of this Las Vegas Raiders. And that team, say what you want about them, there's no Oakland faithful over there. It's a neutral site, and especially a Pittsburgh Steelers franchise that travels well and has a fan base across the U.S. I'm getting 2.5 on what I consider a neutral site. I'm rolling with it.
Yeah.
And you get Mike Tomlin versus Josh McDaniel, which works in your favor, right? Because I think
I was gonna say, like, my initial thought when you said they were getting 2.5 was like, no, I think you misread that, dude. But then I was like, oh wait, okay, so I guess I'm firmly on that with you as well. If I think this is misplaced by a couple points at least, maybe 3-ish. So I would agree, especially because you get the neutral field at worst, like you're saying. Like at worst, it's a neutral field. Like I promise you, nobody's traveling from Oakland for this team. Like maybe a few people, but it's a spectacle. It's a nighttime game, and it's just going to be some stars out who happen to be in Vegas, like for that whole thing. The thing that scares me is that offense. Like you said, they just need to be competent on offense. And I don't know if they are capable. I'm not positive yet, basically. And the only other thing with what was sad was Devonta Adams had to leave that game because it was like 10-10 in that Bills game at one point, right? And they rattled off 28 straight points, or it was like 10-3. They scored a touchdown somewhere in there. But Devonta had a touchdown before he left with the injury. It seems like he's fully healthy now. If Jacoby Myers plays as well, this offense could be a little bit better. But at least the strength of the defense of the team is the defense for that bet for you, Bobby. So I support it. Yeah, the 2.5. I think they're a little bit underrated. I was on them over the Browns this past week too. So
Garoppolo getting sacked. Garoppolo getting sacked a lot is just something that's going to happen. Like I was really impressed. TJ Watt, obviously, it's hard not to be impressed by that dude. But God,
you can rely on Garoppolo holding onto the ball too long. That is definitely something you can rely on.
And going back to your point too about Warren, coming into the year, I'm not a huge Najee Harris fan. I think Warren's actually better in that backfield. Like I hope they give him more of a role, especially in the passing game, because he made 2 or 3 plays, in that game alone that kind of pushed them, across the finish line. So I think they just need to use him more. Just getting a new offensive coordinator.
Yeah, you're probably not going to believe me, but an hour before kickoff, of the game against Cleveland, I put in, I think it was Jaylen Warren over 12.5 receiving yards. And then I played his alt line at 25 plus, and 20 minutes before the game, I said, I don't know what it's going to be. I don't know I cashed it out and took the money. So I didn't lose anything, but I had 2 winning bets in and cashed it. I swear on my mother. Overthinking it, but he hit 25 plus too.
They need to create an award called the Tony Pollard Award, where some running back just has to sit behind a dude that he's better than because they wasted like a first-round draft pick on the starting running back. That is now it's the Tony Pollard Award. That's what it is now. All right, I think I took all my props here, so I'll talk about this teaser that I put in, and I put it in because I started to get scared about the Seahawks line moving too far, because I think it opened at 4.5, and by the time I was ready to bet on it, it was at like 6, and I was like, okay, well, I'll add it to a teaser and I'll just hit it at 6 before it gets to a touchdown. But the teaser that I put together was the Niners, the Seahawks, and the Buffalo Bills there, getting them all down. I just threw the Niners in because I was like, they're going to win this game probably by 100. So I just put a guaranteed third one in there to get it to plus 160 on DK there. I mean, we talked about Buffalo. Like, I don't really believe in Washington. I do think there's something to be said for Sam Howell being like an athlete. Brian Robinson is better than people remember for some reason. I mean, he missed a bunch of games, and then you just forgot that he's still a really good bruising running back. And now they're involving him in the pass game. So sorry to anyone who has Antonio Gibson on their fantasy team. What idiot would have done that? Me. But the Seahawks as well. Like, I'm just fading Bryce Young in this Panthers team. And I do believe I bet on them last week as well against the Lions. I feel like they are a lot more real. And honestly, even the little bit of doubt in my mind is really just calmed by the fact that they're playing against a rookie quarterback in Seattle at that point. So that's not going to go well for Bryce Young there. And then do I need to talk about the Niners? Like, I think they're probably the best team in football. If Brock Purdy is a slightly more than adequate quarterback, like I believed he was, it's not like if you do watch Niners games, and I'm probably going to that game this Thursday, being not that far away from it. If you watch Brock Purdy's games, like, he's not just looking at one dude, going to his first option, and then that's it, right? He's looking guys off. He plays a little bit more like a veteran than people might realize. So I don't really think I need to go further into that. There's no Saquon for the Giants. They're going to lose by 1 million.
You already know this, but I put in a little fun parlay: Christian McCaffrey, Offensive Player of the Year; Michael Parsons, Defensive Player of the Year; Bijan Robinson, Offensive Rookie of the Year. We talked about all three of those guys on this show. It pays 63-1.
If I could just say one more thing, Christian McCaffrey and a touchdown with a 49ers win, just play that pretty much the rest of the season. It's like death and taxes.
Yeah.
It is wild too, though, looking at that. I was looking at touchdown props for tomorrow night, and McCaffrey is like minus 300, which is just absurd. Like, you almost would try to. It's insane. Like, I always want to bet him not to score a touchdown. He probably will, but like, come on, like, that's just an absurd line.
It's amazing.
No, Elijah Mitchell may be the move. There was an article that came out this week where Shanahan was saying, I didn't realize we didn't get him involved in the game last week against the Rams. That wasn't how it was supposed to be. Now I play a Giants team who, good chance I'm going to get up at least 2 scores. It may be Elijah Mitchell week to get in the end zone. Maybe a second half score. You really want juicy odds, but Mitchell's where my money is on some no sweat bets.
I like that.
It's an insane line. But yeah, so for that game, I will kind of touch on that with my last pick. I was looking at anytime touchdown bettors for the game tomorrow night. I'm looking at Matt Breida there with his odds are plus 235 on DraftKings. The only reason I feel like I kind of have to bet it is he's going to be their number one option in the backfield. San Francisco, they looked human on defense last week, like week 1 against Pittsburgh. That was kind of a scary performance. They were just not giving anything up. Granted, Pittsburgh really, they've had struggles of their own, but last week, like, the Rams were able to move the football on them, actually put up points. He's going to be the guy. Like, with Saquon out, there's really no experience behind him. Gary Brightwell, Eric Gray, I think, is their other back. So they're really thin at that running back position. Like, I expect him to be on the field often. If for this bet to hit, it's really not that crazy, right? Like, they just get in the goal line once or twice, and, he pops one off, or you throw a ball in the end zone, get PI, turn around, hang him off. So I think there's too many things that could happen not to take a swing on this. And then kind of piggybacking on that, so it's kind of like a 2-piece play here, because obviously the odds with that are more of a long shot, but I like his over in receiving yards at 12.5. That's more just because I think this could just hit on that last drive of the game when, they drop in prevent, they start dumping everything down to the running back. They're going to be in a negative game script. Like, I would be shocked if New York has a lead, for any point in this game at all. Maybe 3-0 on like a field goal early, but as the game goes on, they're going to be playing from behind. They're really difficult to beat over the top. We know that. And like I said, with Saquon out, he's going to see the majority of the snaps. He is a pretty good receiving back as it is. So this is a San Francisco defense. They're so good up front. They have so many guys who can get after the quarterback. They're going to have to get the ball out of Daniel Jones' hands fast. So screen passes, checkdowns, I think that's going to be the only way they really move the football in this game. So I like his over on receiving yards, and I would sprinkle him to get into the end zone just for the fact that he is RB1. Like, he's going to be the guy if they are running the football in the red zone. It's going to be him. So you got to kind of take a shot with those odds. So that's kind of a 2-part play there on Breda.
I was close to betting Daniel Jones pass attempts, but the number moved by 2 before I could lock it in. And you guys know that's like a big number in pass attempts. So I end up passing on that. I don't think he's gonna be completing enough passes for me to want to get into that world.
Yeah. I see 19.5 right now on DraftKings.
Is Brock Purdy still at 29.5? Because I would go under that.
His pass completions are 20.5
attempts.
Yeah, attempts 28.5 on DraftKings right now.
Okay. It might be 29.5 on others. I was ready to play that, and I think I still might, just because he hasn't thrown that many yet, and he's not probably going to need to do that very often.
Yeah, negative game scripts or positive game scripts. Yeah.
Wow. So let's go over to Operation Fade for those listening and watching. First, make sure you like the show. Press the bell button so it notifies you when we drop a new episode. Operation Fade is where we look at the top 4 public bet sides, and we just pick one to fade. Cowboys at 12.5, 88%. 49ers at 10 at 81%. Bills at 6.5 at 79%. And Dolphins at 6.5, 79%. Wow. I'll start with you, Bobby. Tell me one you'd want to fade.
Only one of those 4 teams up there was a playoff team last year. Give me the Giants plus 10. I'll fade the 49ers. It's really slim pickings here. I don't think Arizona is really going to be that competitive, even with the 12. Buffalo, I think, really has something to prove. They should easily win by a touchdown, especially being 1-1. Give me the Giants plus 10. I'm going to hate myself for this.
10.5.
I see
right now.
Is it 10.5? Even better. I see a world where the Christian McCaffrey doesn't play the full game because he played 100% of the snaps last week. They're going to give him a little bit easier workload in the first half so they don't crush him on a short week. And the Giants, Daniel Jones gets a few more carries than normal. Instead of 6, maybe he gets to 8 to 10, and he makes it competitive. I don't like any of these, but if I have to pick, give me last year's playoff team, Giants plus 10 or 10.5.
I'm gonna go and jump in. I'm gonna skip over the Giants just because the Niners are at home. I think this is gonna be one of those games where they're gonna miss Saquon and they're gonna realize, man, we're gonna have to pay this man for real if we want him to stay. Hard to say that when he's injured, but I mean, I think I'm going to actually go with the home team. It goes against my teaser, but I'm gonna take the Commanders. This is like gun to my head. Take the Commanders. They're at home. They get enough pressure on the quarterback. Secondary looks like it's improved. We could see, maybe Josh Allen throws a pick and then they have to come back and win the game. I don't love it, but I think I have enough reason for me not to like. I think the Broncos are in the worst possible situation. Going to Miami in the end of September, playing the Dolphins at 1 p.m. And for those who don't know, basically what that means is the sun shines on the visitors in Miami at the stadium. So we're going to have a team from up north playing in the sun the entire time who likes to run the ball and get dirty in the trenches. I think they're in a bad situation. So yeah, go ahead and give me the Commanders.
Who is the 4th team? I got Dolphins, Giants game.
It's in the chat. So, Cowboys minus 12, Niners minus 10, Bills minus 6.5, Dolphins minus 6.5. All of these are 79% of the money and above.
Yeah, I'm only seeing the Dolphins one, but that's fine. I got man. Yeah, I honestly, if it's the same concept, if it's gun to my head, I would take the Commanders and trust the Bills a little bit less. I know I put them in that teaser as well, but if we're talking about this being a little bit closer, like it's the Bills haven't been able to get much pressure. That's a huge part of the issue, and we saw how bad that Jets defensive line really is when it goes up against it. And I really did think that was going to be a much stronger part of that defense for the Bills. So that would be one area that would scare me a little bit, even though the Commanders don't have a great offensive line either. So,
yeah, I mean, these are tough.
Really tough.
Yeah. But some of them are going to lose, right? I mean, the public's not going 4-0 here on 79 and up. I'll go with the Broncos. And Brad, you made some great points about it. And I hate this pick. I'm not actually going to bet them.
Yeah.
I feel like of the 4 teams, coming into this week, like they have the most to play for in the terms of like if they go 0-3 with Sean Payton coming in, Bobby, you kind of hit on it. Like, if they go on with how long are they going to stick with Russell Wilson before they say like the ride's over? Like, we can't continue this. So I almost feel like there's going to be the most like desperation out of Denver, if we could use that term here. I don't think they're going to win the game or they're going to cover. But that line also is like almost too low to me because Miami probably has been the best team throughout the first two. And you can make the case like Denver's been the worst. I mean, I don't know what happened to their defense in week 2. Washington came out and, they were just dropping points left and right on them. So, yeah, I'll say Denver. I don't know. Maybe they backdoor or something there, but I'll be surprised if they do.
This is like one of those exercises. I started doing it for NBC and it made me feel really like embarrassed sometimes. Like I would fade one of these guys and they would not only not cover, they would miss it by like 24. So I had to stop that exercise. But it makes you think. Let's get into our touchdown parlay. Got 3 legs available. I'm going to start with mine. I'm going with Hunter Henry, scored in both games. He's plus 285. High red zone usage, high red zone target percentage. He is literally their option when they're throwing the ball in the red zone. So those odds were too high to me.
I like it. I like Henry. I like him in the slot against the Jets. They've been, I mean, as good as they are defensively, or maybe not this year, but they've been very susceptible to the slot. I'm rolling with, because we wanted to get a little frisky this week, Tank Bigsby plays into that Jacksonville Jaguars blowout. Now, Bigsby didn't get any touches, didn't see any snaps against the Chiefs last week, and probably for good reason. You're going to keep him out of that game. It's a big, important game, and he's a rookie. But in week 1, he had 7 carries, 13 yards, and 1 touchdown, and 2 red zone rushes. So I'm getting a guy in a game where I think they're going to win by two scores. Maybe it's 10 points. And he's going to be their goal line back. So maybe ETN does get one early, but Bigsby should get one in the second half. It's plus 260. If you throw in the Jaguars money line, it goes to plus 300. And I've already bet that straight up.
I actually love that.
I don't hate it either.
That's what I'm here for, guys.
I wasn't looking at it. I just saw that you were going to talk about it, and I was like, all right, I'll hear this out.
I'm in sales. I'm a salesman.
Yeah, no, you sold me, man. I'm with you. I mean, I'm riding with you either way, obviously. I was the same way. So I'm just saying this as a caveat, and obviously this sucks for anybody because I can just be like later, I can be like, see, I told you Zay Flowers was going to score a touchdown. He's not the guy I'm going with. I am going with Michael Thomas. I'm going to go with Michael Thomas. I think Zay Flowers is a great bet. It's plus 170. If you want me to take it, I'll take it.
No. You are committed. You're committed.
And Michael Thomas, I still feel really good about. I think, look, I just really went to red zone targets. He's got the second most in the league, tied with a couple guys with 4 of them. He's got 1 reception. It's also why I like Zay Flowers. But continuing on with Michael Thomas, the Packers defense, like I've been a big fan of the Packers so far, mostly because of their offensive defensive lines being so good. I think they definitely would have won last week if they had Aaron Jones and or probably Christian Watson in that one, and just got like 1 more TD that they needed, or at least 1 more score, obviously. But either way, in this one, like I still think that their pass defense is vulnerable enough. We've seen them play Justin Fields and Desmond Ridder, so do with that what you will for how well their DVOA has ranked on defense so far. But for Michael Thomas, like he's got 17 targets total this season. Like he's not an afterthought. He's been gone to, it's terrible English, but he's like Carr's gone to him early and often. And really, it's been a guy that he likes around in the red zone a little bit more than Chris Olave, where Olave's got like the 4th most targets in the league, but a lot of those are between the 20, as he's only got like 1 red zone target at this point. So I think Michael Thomas keeps getting peppered down there. Interestingly, Juwan Johnson's not getting a lot. I thought he would be getting a lot more of that kind of stuff in some of those jump balls this season, but haven't been seeing it from him as much. It's been a lot of Michael Thomas around the red zone. I think the Saints will be going back to him there.
I like that. Michael Thomas has played the exact same number of snaps as Chris Olave. He is on the field, and his red zone targets are high there. Matt, give us one if you have one on you.
All right. Yeah, I'll throw one in there. I'll go AJ Brown, Monday Night Football. So hopefully these legs hit, and then we can wait till Monday to sweat out the leg. But no, so Brown no touchdowns this year. I'm sure you guys saw kind of got into it a little bit with Jalen Hurts there in week 2. I do think that narrative is true. Like I think he's frustrated right now with his touches on offense. They have to get him the ball more often, especially in the red zone. We were talking about Pittsburgh with their offensive coordinator challenges. Philly's experiencing some of their own here. If you watch their first 2 games, they don't look real smooth offensively. A lot of it, I think, does have to do with play calling. So I like to see them kind of go back to what they were doing a little more last year. And Brown was a huge part of it a season ago. He had 11 touchdowns for the Eagles, and he's going to play almost 100% of those snaps in the red zone. Like, he's always on the field. And even if he's not in the red zone, he is a guy who we saw often last year hurt you over the top outside of the red zone, has that deep threat ability. The big, strong target there in the red zone for Jalen Hurts. So if Philly's going to put points on the board, like I think they should be able to against Tampa Bay, I think we find A.J. Brown get into the end zone in this game.
So I'll go over those plays one more time. The touchdowns, A.J. Brown, we have Michael Thomas, we have Tank Bigsby, and we have Hunter Henry. As always, for anybody watching, make sure you go to our Twitter at Bankroll Blitz. Like, comment, retweet, follow, and we will give away the money like we did in week 1 after hitting the touchdown parlay. I think that's about do it, guys. I had a great time chilling with all you. Matt, thank you so much for joining us. For those who don't follow, which is probably impossible because I feel like everyone follows you, it's at Dead Prez Picks. I'm Brad Thomas. For everyone else, have a great one and best of luck.